Because right now, gorillas in all the warehouses are not giving FFP2 or equal masks. They are giving surgical masks because they're fucking cheaper.
Let's now give a warm, loud and combative welcome to a colleague from the Gorillas Workers Collectiv, who has been involved in the struggle since the very beginning and who has been a crucial part in workers' organization during this very long, intense year. It is safe to say that none of this would have happened without their initial impetus and constant discipline and determination to fight against all forms of corporate abuse and for workers' autonomy and self-determination. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Hello, salutări tuturor care mă înțeleg în română. I'll move away from the focus being gorillas for a second to say that I'm amazed at the turnout that so many people make possible. I don't want to forget anyone, so forgive me for not naming anyone, but a lot of supporters are here now. A lot of them left already, but their presence was appreciated. So let's give them a round of applause. Thanks a lot. It doesn't matter what political affiliation or worker movement you're from. We really appreciate your support of workers' rights and of guerrilla workers and precarious workers in general. So I've been working at Gorilla since autumn of last year, and I'm very glad to still stand here as an immigrant and as a worker after all the efforts Gorillas put into getting rid of us immigrant workers, who at the same time happen to be their most valuable capital. I came to the company on the wave of corporate propaganda like we are a family, which actually meant that we are children. Be told that what to do, what and when to say it. The CEO doesn't like a culture of complaint. Fuck that. Even now we get emails from Gorillas saying that we can openly talk to them. Just now, during the demonstration, they sent out a message saying that we can always reach out to them. There's some kind of fake platform where we can write our complaints. Well, we've done that before, and they always wanted to talk to us in undemocratic meetings behind closed doors with only 1 hour or 1 day of notice. There was no respect for our time or for our efforts to actually change things. But look how we've grown into a self-organized workers group who know when we're being taken advantage of. We now know it's illegal to be paid differently for the same job. Now 12 euros for some, while others only get 10.50 per hour. We work in all weather conditions, be it snow, rain or scorching sun, and there are daily accidents where people break bones and joints. I have many colleagues who have broken wrists, knees, and Gorillas fires them and doesn't give a shit about them and denies. In their new email that they sent out just now as we're walking here, they say, all right, so the police told me to put a mask on, an FFP2 mask, right? Which is really nice, I would say, but at the same time, it's a slap in the face because right now Gorillas in all the warehouses are not giving FFP2 or equal masks. They are giving surgical masks because they're fucking cheaper. And this is a slap in the face. We've also learned that we can demand all of our work equipment like phones and mobile data. We can demand necessary gear for 8 hours of working outside like waterproof and breathable. Breathable being the key word. Shoes that no one at Gorillas, Flink or other companies have. Waterproof and breathable jackets and pants up to standard. And up to standard is the other keyword here because they give garbage. They buy off AliExpress. We learned that the cobblestone roads literally break our backs. It's not because of the weight of containers, but because of the vibrations that our spine absorbs. And so we are demanding that containers be removed from our backs entirely and into dedicated baskets. We're not cheap shock absorbers for expensive champagne bottles on the way to customers. And we're not pieces of equipment All right. Yeah, we're not that. We're not fucking equipment to be tossed away. We're not cheap shock absorbers. That's one thing. But we're also not pieces of equipment to be outsourced to the state, who is already overwhelmed with the current situation, right? And that is if we can even get the health insurance with our visas if not employed. Gorillas and any delivery service that uses containers that are carried on the back of people are ticking health bombs on par with the corona crisis. Imagine that Athens alone has 40,000 delivery riders right now, and the trend is for Berlin to catch up. Who will pay for all those chronically broken backs if not us consumers and taxpayers? It'll be us workers who will pay with our inability to work or enjoy life. I feel for the hospital workers who, along with the coronavirus, have to deal with us too now. In solidarity, all the essential workers, with everyone who has just had to keep working through the pandemic, as precarious workers, as illegalized ones, as if your lives didn't matter. You all deserve more than a thank you. Applause. We all do. So please don't applaud here. So what can we do? We can challenge illegal contracts and get unlimited ones as a result. We can challenge illegal terminations done by phone and not in writing. We also learned that there are no consequences for those breaking the law repeatedly and aggressively, as they are doing right now, in this very moment, even when taken to court and they lose. Along with legislation needing to catch up, we need to find creative ways to hold accountable the bosses of Gorillas, Flink, Getir, and so on. Our conditions are different, but not fundamentally better. You've all heard the horror stories of people getting fired while on sick leave after breaking their knees in the companies they work in, told they would be hired back once recovered. I personally heard it a few dozen times already, both from Gorillas and other companies like Getir. We've learned that we can support other workers by learning about not only what is the law, but also in society. Like, for example, that union busting experts get paid 3,000 fucking euros per day to break up our organizing. That makes us even more curious. What will we actually achieve? What are they so afraid of? Why did Gorillas try to fire workers, as per that leaked communication where the CEO says we had to terminate one of our riders? Apparently he was unionizing. Again, with no criminal charges or any other consequences to him. And why did they fire workers en masse for asking for those basic things that anyone else in their right mind would agree are needed to have happy workers? That's because struggling workers have no time and energy to avoid what is an ingrained systemic rule. For those companies to make huge and disproportionate profits, people, animals, cultural and social values need to suffer. We need to suffer. And as a consequence, fight each other. But we welcome all workers to see past the poor person in front of them and find a well-hidden exploiter instead. Someone hiding in a fucking office, in a headquarters somewhere, or inside some party place doing coke. Someone who claims power and authority when it's easy, but dodges it when it comes to being held accountable. A CEO, COO, and so forth with the ridiculous terms they name themselves with. A politician, a landlord. We workers end up fighting each other. As consumers, we consume to feel something or nothing at all anymore. As neighbors, we end up hating each other or the workers. Look around for those we don't see but that hold a lot of power. Union leaders and bureaucrats, or those who plan to make the rules for us in the European Commissions in Brussels or Luxembourg, not as an opposition to abusive work conditions, but as a regulated alternative, a full-fledged different social class. They plan to replace the saddle with the carriage so we can transport even more for longer and without complaints. For this purpose, our phones store data, and your data right now is the new Bitcoin, being mined to create new databases. For how long can you push workers until they fall? For how long will consumers put up with the modern slavery apps until they delete them? It's to be seen. As an example of how blatantly Gorillas breaks the law right now when it comes to data protection, did you know that everyone I ever delivered to could see my personal phone number, along with my name, and could save it to potentially call me whenever they felt like it, or vice versa? That I had the phone number, address, and name of all the customers I ever delivered to. And that will happen tomorrow when I go to my shift as well. And it happens today around the corner in the Gorillas warehouse. That's illegal in Germany. Yet it happens right now with the police present who don't give a fuck in all the warehouses in Berlin with thousands of workers and thousands of customers. Gorillas purposely keeps its workers in the dark about what's legal and illegal in order to obscure the law and exploit us to the furthest extent. They try to install video surveillance cameras in the warehouses and remove them the day after photos of them ended up on Twitter. They had people working on Sundays for months and didn't pay 1 cent of bonus or extra vacation days. They regularly fire workers while on sick leave after having an accident from working for Gorillas and don't advise them to register work accidents as such. They regularly steer part of the wages and expect people to not to do anything about it. And when they get caught, they never pay the legally required penalty fee. On the website of the Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, that was actually my point right before, one can read that the workplace only FFP2 masks or equivalent like N95 and KF94 masks are allowed. But right now, Gorillas is distributing cheaper surgical masks. So if the police would be so nice to go around the corner and ask the warehouse what kind of masks they are distributing, there might be a surprise there. But nobody gives a fuck in this country about immigrants. Not anymore, and not when they were told for months in constant meetings. It's not because they are new, a startup, or a family that these things happen. Not anymore, and not when they were told for months in constant meetings by workers on how and what to change before people got tired of promises and threats. Not now after they caught the taste of millions trickling up from us workers, creating value for them, not only for our work, but also by ignoring the small infractions that to us mean only a few euros here and there, but that add up in millions of euros for them. We've gathered so much practical experience and knowledge. For more than a year organizing amongst ourselves to navigate the sickening maze of lies and manipulation from Gorillas, all of which could take us workers to another level. We've taken many steps as Gorillas Workers Collectiv, and one of them that other workers voted on as well was the forming of the Electoral Council to do, whose task would be to set up a workers' council, a Betriebsrat, for the whole of Gorillas Berlin. Something Gorillas is obviously trying very hard to stop. Also, as Duigo just explained earlier, they are doing more and more to stop it. Along with swaying the elected workers and firing candidates of the Workers' Council, they have increased repression by moving the remaining initiators and election council members to warehouses furthest from their homes in the hopes we will quit. Our small meetings would give us energy for days. This sort of meeting with all of you here would last us for months. So thank you for that. Thanks a lot. We won't quit Gorillas, and Gorillas will have a workers' council. To that end, we welcome you tomorrow, the 17th of November, at the courthouse at Magdeburger Platz 1 for the trial that Gorillas filed against the Electoral Council, in which they ridiculously asked for jail time and fines for those workers in the Electoral Council. But equally important, we want to connect with more workers and include them in this process. That includes the collective as well and any other processes we started, so look us up. The organizations and people that made this gathering today possible are to be reached and found in the flyers for the event today, spread on all the social media we've been using, Instagram, Twitter, and so on, even though they're bound against us. Just do a search for the Gorillas Workers Collectiv to find us. There you can find out information about tomorrow's court case, as well as get in touch with us. Thank you, mulțumesc, gracias, teşekkürler, efaristo, danke, merci, and all the other thank yous.
I say no justice and you say no peace. No justice, no justice. Ich bin ein Mensch, der Fehler machen muss, damit er sie sieht. Meine Freiheit ist uns nicht geblieben, aber immerhin die. Rappe die Hälfte meines Lebens, bin politisch aktiv. Doch Mensch war ich auch schon vorher und das ist was zählt. Klingt zu simpel, doch es gibt leider Dinge, die klingen so simpel, dass niemand sich hier noch an ihre Tiefe erinnert.